Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome back. We got another episode of Guardians Daily. So happy to have you with us. Gonna cover all things Guardians. It's kind of what we talk about here. It's in the name. If you haven't figured that out by now, hopefully that clears it up for you. So anyway, here we go. Last night's action in Detroit for your Guardians, and bad time to be a Detroit fan right now. Things are not going their way across the board. Obviously, the tough loss on Sunday night was not even close. Not even close to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're playing tonight against the New York Knicks, but Detroit's at home. Oh, their baseball team. They put a lot of money into them. Put a lot of money this offseason. Went and bought some pitching. Well, they're not pitching too well. And they saw that last night. Framber Valdez on the mound for the Tigers. Gave him a big contract this offseason. I don't think people in Detroit like him very much so far. He's been bad for the Tigers. Thought he was really good in Houston, had a good career there. Guy kind of had some off-field issues, kind of seems like a jerk if you ask me from all accounts and things that I've heard. Kind of emotionless on the mound. He got rocked last night by this Cleveland Guardians lineup. And it all starts at the top. Angel Martinez in the leadoff spot last night. He was doing his thing. He's been awesome lately. Obviously, Jose Ramirez with another big night at the plate. Chase DeLauder, hey, he's going to keep getting what's called ground outs, fielder's choice at RBIs. He'll take them. He got a couple of those last night, and yeah, really all around a great performance for your Cleveland Guardians. Slade Ciccone was sharp, and he's been a lot better this last month. For the guards. Obviously, got off to a really rough start this season. Similar to last year, though, he's kind of found his thing. He's settled in. I think he's much better when he doesn't pitch for strikeouts, and that's kind of what we saw last night. It was less than five strikeouts, but 7 innings pitched for Slade Ciccone last night. What more can you ask for? Only gave up 2 runs, and that was a nice 8-2 win for your Cleveland Guardians. A lot to like right now with this team. Like, what don't we like right now with this lineup? They're fine. I mean, the length of the lineup is it's as deep as it's been since those or like those feels almost like those 2017, 2018 teams where they had Lindor, they had Jose, they had Encarnacion, they had Yonder Alonso, they had Santana for some of that, they had Brantley. Like, that's how long it's been since there feels like we've had a lineup with this much depth. And that goes to show how good the pitching has been over the last 10 years or so, because we have still been obviously won the division many times. We've been in the mix in the in the American League, going to the ALCS a couple times, things like that. Like, this team has been so good historically over this last decade, especially since Stephen Vogt's gotten here. And the lineup depth really hasn't even been there. Now we're starting to see a long, lengthy lineup where if it's 1 through 9, there's not a lot of free outs, compared to what we've seen, in the past. There's been these gaps in these lineups, these guys who aren't producing. Right now, there's very few people in this lineup that you want to face. DeLauder, stud. Bazana, stud. Angel Martinez, stud. Schneeman's been awesome. On that, some of these guys you didn't expect to come in, like Martinez, like Schneeman, just hitting really well. Brian Rocchio, stud. He's been awesome in the bottom of that lineup, obviously in that number 9 spot. He had another great night at the plate last night. Made a couple of really nice plays in the field as well. Saw Rocchio even like really beating himself up after a bad at bat in the top of the ninth in a 8-2 game, which kind of shows the level of care and pride he takes in his game. You can see that these are young guys who are starting to go from really young guys. Obviously, DeLauder and Bazana still right in their rookie season, and even Messick if you want to go into the pitching staff. But young guys starting to find themselves as pros, and you can see it with this team. And it's an exciting time to be a Cleveland Guardians fan right now. Going into this year, you weren't sure how much of that run at the end of last season was flukish and or what is it going to turn into? How early are we going to see the young guys? We're getting them early, and they still have a lot to go in that farm system. Obviously, Ralphie Velasquez was a move yesterday, getting called up from Double A to Triple A. He's been one of the best hitters in all of the minor leagues. Eventually, he's going to be a name that they have to have talks about. He's a stud, big power hitting first baseman. He used to catch, but he's more first baseman now. That's a guy. Cooper Engel's been hitting really well in Columbus. Yeah, he can catch and play a little bit of first as well. And he can maybe play some outfield. I don't know. I don't know how comfortable they are with that. But There's guys, Khalil Watson, the personal favorite of mine. There's guys in AAA right now that we're gonna have to have some conversations because this lineup is so good. Like now, it's like there's where do you get spots? Where is there opportunities? Where's their moves? Does that mean you're at a point at deadline where you're maybe moving one of those guys from Columbus? Trying to get a big name, for to help this team because you're gonna be hopefully in the mix come October baseball. This team's really playing well right now, and you can see it. It looks like they're having a lot of fun. And also, Detroit Tigers, this is bad. Things are getting bad in Detroit because there was a lot of expectations on this season. Obviously, the Scooble injury. Now, like, is Scooble going to rush back from what could be almost like obviously he opted not to get the Tommy John, and he got the thing a lot of guys are doing, like where they're taking the pieces out of the elbow. I know there was a technical term for it. I got to double check on that, but I think we said Blake Snell is doing that as well. But man, I don't see Scoop. I don't think Scooble's agent. Whose agent is. I don't think he's going to let him uh, risk it to come back for a below 500 Detroit Tigers team 1 year before he gets his monster contract. So I think they're screwed on the Scooble phase. Even though he was playing catch on the field before the game yesterday, it's just like even if he comes back, what good does it do? Do the Tigers have a run? Even a couple years ago, I guess the Tigers did make a similar run to the Guardians. That's how they actually got into that playoff series where they play the Guards. Obviously, that was the Lane Thomas, David Fry series. But the Tigers made a late season push post All Star break that year after they moved some guys and had that great run. So obviously it's there, but man, things are not looking good in Detroit. It's going to be another one tonight against the Guards. 4 game series. Can this be a chance just to really put them down in the dumps and really rub their nose in it? But I want to talk about one guy. Not sure if you've heard of him. He plays for the Guardians. He's been here a while. His name's Jose Ramirez. He's really good baseball player. And he's starting to heat up for this team right now. And once Jose gets rolling, this whole lineup feeds off it. You can see it. It's been the story for the last decade, he feels like. But man, he is starting to hit the ball really well last night. Had the 2-run double, had a home run in the ninth. It's just starting to come together. And you can see when he's locked in what that does. And I think that move to give Stephen Vogt credit. Credit to Vogt. There's been a conversation about that moving him up to the 2 hole, putting the water down to the 3. I love it so far. Hard not to. They've been really good with it. Obviously, haven't lost a game since they made that move. So easy to praise it now. But Jose's been looks locked in. I think that move definitely does help him. I think also the fact the water's been so good gives him a little more protection. Obviously, Manzardo wasn't in the lineup last night with the lefty on the mound. We should see him tonight. But Jose's hot. He's getting hot and he's getting there. I mean, that's the thing with Jose though. You never really when he goes through these little slumps and snides, just kind of go with it. Just roll through the punches because he's going to turn it around. He's too good of a player not to. And his still gets there. Even like I said this last week, I think, even when he is kind of scuffling at the plate, at least by his standards, he still gets treated with that same respect from opposing pitching staffs. Like he's still going to get his walks. He's still going to get at bats where he really doesn't see competitive pitches. And it gets harder and harder to do that though. You have to kind of give him his pitches to hit when you have a guy like DeLauder behind him who's been hitting as good as anyone in baseball. When Manzardo's hot and he's more of a threat. Reese Hoskins had a nice night at the plate last night. Hoskins seems to be kind of finding a little bit more comfort with this team, playing first base and kind of like growing into the locker room and things like that. Obviously, as a veteran coming to a new place, obviously he was in Philly for so long. Obviously, the years in Milwaukee as well, but kind of seems he's found a little bit more of a comfort zone. And you can see it with his at bat quality. He had a good job on Sunday and just getting a sac fly, just doing the little things after a nice 8 pitch at bat, like little things like that. That goes to show he's finding himself and working through things with this team. So obviously, I like to see that from Hoskins and the depth of the lineup, like we've been talking about pretty much all episode. It feels like, but yeah, Jose, he's there. I mean, it's one of those things you're not shocked by it. Obviously, he's coming around the corner. But last night started just another nice example of it. Big weekend series against the Reds. Kept it going last night. Also, he really likes Detroit Tiger pitching. He's the Tiger killer out there in Detroit. I think I think they're sick of him. And you can feel it in the crowd. Like when he's up, there's just a little bit of a groan when he gets those hits, especially in Detroit. And I think that things in general are just going poorly in Detroit right now, and I think everything's just kind of turned into a mess. And I think that fan base is ready to turn. You couple more big, not even competitive games this series, you keep piling on the runs. I think things are going to get ugly there and get ugly quick. Is AJ Hinch's job on the line? I don't know, but I think that's going to all those things are going to be conversations soon because I think with that Tigers team, it feels like more last season. They had the late season run where they were so meh and obviously got caught by the Guardians. And then they had that early season run where they got that big lead because of how good they were playing. And you're kind of figuring out like which version of them is really the real Detroit Tigers. And I think it's more that September late season version that we got last season. It's not great right now. And especially with all the money they're playing to these guys and expectations being so high. Things are going to get nasty in Detroit if they keep going this way, but it is still May 19th. Still a lot of time for them to figure things out. It's baseball. Like we've seen obviously last season, seeing the runs that are possible. But they're going to have to get on it soon and do something to change the vibes in that locker room and in that organization. Or you just keep tanking. Works for me. Keep going lower. I think it's hilarious when they struggle. So enjoyed that. Always enjoyed beating Detroit. But we got 3 more to do it. We got 3 more chances to do it. Got to at least get 2 out of these 3, get the series win. And just want to talk a little bit more about the ceiling for this Guardians lineup. Like, how good can some of these guys be? And, we've talked about Angel a lot lately, but I think you've just continued to see him grow at the plate and, like, raise the bar expectations wise. Obviously, I told that story yesterday about Tito and talking about like how they don't want to limit Jose. Like when the Jose was a young player, they thought, man, utility player, how special then, how positive that can be, but like not realizing the talent and the ability to grow into a Hall of Fame level player. So you try and not limit expectations and what you see players building out to be. And with Angel, obviously, I think that perfectly applies, especially he's been getting this protege nickname on Jose's hip pretty much all season. I think you just got to look at things like one step at a time right now. I think it's hard to go big picture ceiling in terms of what can like the Lauder. How good can Chase the Lauder be? Bazana. How good can Bazana like I think it's so early to talk, but I think the ceiling for these guys is so much higher than maybe we originally realized. Bazana, obviously number 1 pick, and things are a little different there because the expectations that come with that. I think that's hard to shake. So that obviously the ceiling there better be really high, especially because that draft was loaded and there's a lot of studs. Obviously Nick Kurtz, JJ Weatherholt, Caglione has been great for the Royals, but there's still a lot of big names in that draft. Chase Burns has been awesome for the Reds. So there's so many big names that came out of that draft and have already been producing. So obviously there's a little more pressure externally, at least with Bazana and expectations wise. But I've loved what I've seen from Bazana. I think he just plays the game the right way. Last night he was getting. I saw some Tigers Twitter already like, oh, this guy's a perfect guardian. It was 2 for 2 with 2 singles, and the hardest ball he hit was like 60 miles an hour off the bat. Exit velocity had a weak little single, and then the bunt single last night was pretty funny. Kind of popped one up in the air, but you can see the frustration that he might already cause for opposing teams with his speed and with his just baseball savvy. He likes to dance a little bit at first base. He caused a walk pretty much last night. It was pretty clear he was annoying the hell out of the Tigers pitcher. And it was a left-handed pitcher, relief guy on the mound, and he still was dancing out there at first, just led to 4 straight balls to the batter. So like to see that from Bazana, but obviously back to the ceiling stuff. Like, but the Lauder, like, how good can Chase the Lauder be? Like, are we at a time where they're already talking about trying to get a long-term extension for him? I know he's a rookie, but like obviously we've seen this with these young guys right now. It's a trend in baseball. And it makes sense for both sides. Obviously, lock these guys up early, gives you the team control, gives them the money sooner, gets them paid, gets them guaranteed because you never know what can happen with injuries and stuff. Or do guys obviously bet on themselves and say, no, I'm just going to keep going and try and make it to the open market. But that's the beauty of it. And then it's a very interesting situation you see some of these teams in, like where they're given an 8-year, $100 million contract to a guy who's played less than a season of baseball or maybe not even made it to the big leagues yet. But the expectation is, well, it's 6 and 5 years, he's going to be getting a 10-year, 350 million, 400 million somewhere else that we can't give him. Try and get ahead of it with a guy, and the Lauder's a prime candidate for that. So I'm interested if those conversations are happening. Obviously, you don't like thinking about things down the road, or obviously the Lauder's a tougher one with the injury history. I think that would be factor for caution, but fingers crossed there with the Lauder that everything stays that way. But he's going to be a guy who those conversations have to be had like down the road, or do we try and get him locked up sooner? So it'll be interesting to see how that things go with the Lauder, with some of these young guys. Bazana can be thrown in that same boat. So interested there. Maybe even Angel. Maybe Angel gets a contract. I don't know how things are going to shake out there as well. But loving what I'm seeing from this lineup, top to bottom right now. I think the Quan move down has really helped everyone. I think it's helped Quan because that's so much less pressure. Like it just felt like sometimes the at bats at the top, he was getting put in too many high leverage situations based on his place in the lineup, just where he wasn't comfortable and confident enough in himself right now. And it felt like things were just kind of compounding. I think this move down gives him a little more freedom to go try and test some things out. Try something new. Try a new little approach. Try this, try that. And it's not really hurting him, or it's not getting as much attention because it's just kind of in the course of the game instead of, hey, we're starting the game. We're starting, hey, top of the lineup. We're here to start scoring time. Oh, Quan, the way he's struggling. So I think there's something to be said there with the Quan move really helping everyone, including Stephen Kwan. So I like that. I think that was a great move by Stephen Vogt. And I think that's a move that really has helped this lineup from top to bottom. So respect to Vogt there for actually taking the credit and doing it a little. And obviously, people could say he could have done it sooner. He also could have done it a lot later. This could have drawn out a couple more weeks of him struggling at the top. So he did rip the band aid, made the move, and I think it's for the better for everyone involved. And as we look to Tuesday night's action, it's going to be Parker Messick on the mound for your Guardians versus Kaider Montero, who's actually been one of the better pitchers for this Tiger staff. And it's one thing I noticed, just especially across baseball, but it really applies to the Detroit Tigers. Obviously, Jack Flaherty paid a lot. Framber Valdez paid a lot. Both those guys +4, +5 ERAs so far this season. And it goes to the homegrown pitching, just like how much of an asset and benefit that has been to the Guardians to not have to go out and spend on their starting pitching. It's such a blessing how good their pitching development and their staff is that these young guys have come up. Look at Parker Messick. Like their whole staff's homegrown. Parker Messick. Joey Cantillo, obviously they got him in a trade, but like that's their development. He's come up. He came up, made his debut with the Guardians. Uh, what's it called? Gavin Williams, another guy, been awesome for this team. Tyner Bybee, obviously has struggled a bit lately, but still, it's in there. And all these guys that on the open market, like there's value to them. You know what I mean? Like the fact we haven't had to go out and spend, which we don't like to spend anyway, but the fact we have been able to get our pitching staff and develop them in house, like from our organization from top down, has been such a benefit. Because you look at these teams, there's just not a lot of good starting pitching out there right now. It feels like, and especially if there is any, they are paying out the wazoo for it. Like it is crazy how much you have to pretty much like pay a premium and overpay just for out quality starting pitching, like average starting pitching. Obviously, Flaherty and Valdez have had all-star like seasons and have been very good at times. But the amount of money that the Tigers had to shell out to get just two extra guys for their rotation, and then they're not producing, like their numbers are closer to Slade Zacconi than they are to Parker Messick, who we're paying nothing. You know what I mean? Like that's the difference in a successful team and a team that's already playing from behind when the fact they're paying all these guys this money and not getting the production. Like it's one thing if you're paying them and they're going out there and their numbers are great and they're winning you games, but if you're going to have to pay this premium and then also not get the response on the field from these guys, man, it's a crusher to a team and a fan base because your frustration just grows so much quicker. Like it's much harder to get mad at when you bring up like a Logan Allen and he doesn't look great. You're not gonna really freak out when he struggles or gets sent down, or if you're like, man, we got to pull him from the lineup, or he gives up a 5 spot in the first. It's like, man, tough. When your guy Framber Valdez looks lifeless out there and just gets slapped around by the Guardians and really doesn't seem to care, got to be infuriating for a Detroit Tigers fan base. And there's a lot of examples of that across baseball right now with guys coming on, especially starting pitching, coming in on these big contracts and just not living up to it. But hasn't been our problem. And a guy who has not been a problem has been Parker Messick. He's been awesome this year for your Cleveland Guardians. Look to keep it up tonight. He's done a really nice job in his last couple of starts. Been one of the best pitchers in baseball, especially out of rookies. So look for him to keep it up tonight. And yeah, go get another win for your Guardians. Just put the Tigers to bed. This is a fun chance right now. Your team's playing fun, exciting baseball. Looks like they want to be out there. And I think the Tigers are playing a little bit skittish. Keep taking advantage of that. Get another one tonight. Get ahead 2-0 in the series and go Guardians. Gonna see you. We'll talk about it more tonight. Also, Cavs, Knicks, game one of the Eastern Conference Finals. So, Cleveland fans, we got a lot to watch tonight. Detroit, unfortunately, not as much, but you never know. That's the way it goes. We've been there before as well. Maybe we'll be there in a week. So, we'll see. Things can always turn around like that, but hopefully not anytime soon. Let's go get a win for your Cleveland Guardians tonight and keep the good vibes going. See you tomorrow morning on Guardians Daily. Appreciate it, guys.